Hey guys, my name is Marta, welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to be trying to encourage everyone watching this video to start reading Victorian literature. This video has been heavily inspired by Blatantly Bookish recent video on why she loves Victorian literature, as well as by Kate Howitt's also recent video in which a bunch of booktubers have come together to discuss the Victorian novel that introduced them to this time period and the literature produced during it. And now that I have paid my homages to these wonderful people that have published these very amazing and inspiring videos, I am going to give you 3 reasons why you should also read Victorian literature. The first reason why you should read Victorian literature is because of how easy it is to relate to the characters. Many Victorian novels are bildungsromance, romance, which is a genre that was actually developed during this time period, and which is a genre that explores a character's life from their childhood to their adulthood. So it's a genre in which you are going to see a character grow as well as going through some struggles during their lifetime. Bildungsromance romance are one of the genres that attract most people to Victorian literature. In fact, one of the most well-loved and popular Victorian novels, which is Jane Eyre, is a bildungsromance romance, and the reason why most people love it is because of how much they can relate to the main character, Jane Eyre. And this being able to relate to the character and their feelings while growing up was also one of the main reasons why I fell in love with the story of Jane Eyre, which led me to fall in love with the Brontes and their works. In the case of Jane Eyre, as it is probably also the case with other bildungsromance romance like Dickens's David Copperfield, you really get to see how this character grows up and struggles until they reach the final point of the book. And while you read about this character, while you read about all the things they have to go through, you do not only can't help but fall in love with them, but you will also find yourself relating to some of their feelings and experiences. In my case, I personally really related to that loneliness and misunderstood feeling that Jane Eyre feels throughout the novel, as I think most readers did when they first read Charlotte Bronte's story. So summing up this first reason in one sentence, I think you should read Victorian literature because of how much you will be able to relate to it despite of the huge gap between the time it was published and nowadays, since most of the feelings that the characters go through while they are growing up are universal and do not change across time. The second reason why you should read Victorian literature is because of the themes it deals with. Contrary to what you might think when it comes to classics, Victorian literature, as well as so do other classics, and that's one of the main reasons why classics actually become classics, Victorian literature deals with topics that do not age and that have not stopped being important, nor have stopped to affect people nowadays. 3 main topics that are dealt with in Victorian literature that are still important and talked about nowadays are rape, which is a very hard topic that is dealt with in some novels, such as for instance Tess of the Dubervilles by Thomas Hardy, workers and their situation, as well as poverty, which is a top concept that is dealt with in some of Elizabeth Gaskell's novels, especially North and South, as well as in some Dickens. I am thinking about Oliver Twist, which deals with children working, which might not be the most in-brand theme in some countries nowadays. It's for sure still happening in some corners of the world, and it's important to still read and discuss. And last, and in my opinion, one of the most interesting themes that are dealt with in Victorian literature is women and their situation and position in society. This is a theme that is dealt with in many novels, especially in those written by women, and it's a topic that can be discussed in many different areas. For instance, we can talk about female and work, some novels dealing with female jobs at that time. One example of would be The Governess, which is dealt with in many of the Bronte novels, not only in Jane Eyre but also in Agnes Grey by Anne Bronte, and which is also dealt with in a book that I am actually going to be reading this Victober, which is Amy Levy's The Romance of a Job, which deals with a family of women establishing their own business. And the other viewpoint which I am thinking about that has to do with women in society in the Victorian time, has to do with women and marriage. And when I think about this, I always think about The Tenant of Wilfred Hall by Anne Bronte, which is a book that I read and loved around 2 or 3 years ago. The Tenant is a very feminist book for its time, in which you will see a very powerful discussion on marriage and women, and it's a book that I highly recommend to anyone, whether you are just getting into Victorian literature or just happen to not have read it yet. And last reason why I think you should start reading Victorian literature is because it's a time period in which there is not only one genre that is very popular, but it's the time period in which genre fiction started to spread, and you can find many different things that will suit many people's preferences when it comes to literature. The Victorian period was not only the rise of the fantastic novel, which you could all find predecessors in some romantic works such as Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and you can see further developed in, for instance, Dracula by Bram Stoker, the Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde, or Wells, or Margaret Oliphant, which is an author I wanna check out this Victober, but was also the time period in which the detective novel started to spread. It was the time period in which you can find the first Sherlock Holmes stories. Now, very similar to the detective novel, you have also the sensation novel, which also features some sort of mystery and is filled with action, filled with movement, and it's a type of literature that I think many modern readers would enjoy, despite it having been published almost 200 years ago. And of course, speaking of genre fiction, I cannot forget to mention the development of children's fiction. Most of children's fiction started to be published during the Victorian era, since it's the time period where the modern conception of a child started to be established, which basically means that not all children started to work at a very young age. Many of the most popular children classics were published during the Victorian period, 2 of the biggest examples being Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and The Wind in the Willows, which is a book that I am looking forward to reading, hopefully this Victober. And also, besides children's fiction, of course, in the Victorian era you find novels such as Dickens's, which you will enjoy if you like to laugh, since most of them are very comedic, while also dealing with serious topics, but also novels that have this romantic background, or in which romance is one of the main themes dealt with. One of the biggest examples of this being my current read, which is Elizabeth Gaskell's Wives and Daughters. But besides novels, the Victorian era has also things for everyone when it comes to drama. I am actually doing a series exploring some Victorian drama in which you will see 2 videos go up during the month, and 2 of the main playwrights of the Victorian era and that everyone knows about are Oscar Wilde and Bernard Shaw. And same goes for poetry. I am not very well versed when it comes to Victorian poetry because I do not usually gravitate towards poetry in general, but it was a genre that was very developed during the Victorian era. In fact, most of the novelists were also poets. I am thinking of the Brontes and of Thomas Hardy. So I am also pretty sure that you will find poets that will suit your taste, no matter what you like to see in your poetry. So that was all for today. This was a very short video in which I think I talked a bit too fast, but I hope you don't mind. I think I was getting a bit too excited. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and comment down below one reason why you think people should read Victorian literature, or just tell me what your favorite Victorian novel is down below. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more from me. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and I hope your day is gone amazing, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!